A strong advocate for promoting U.S. technology, jobs, and manufacturing globally, he was selected by former U.S. Secretary of Commerce Penny Pritzker to serve as an appointed member of the U.S. Department of Commerce Environmental Technologies Trade Advisory Committee. He has also been appointed to serve on the Illinois District Export Council, where he contributed leadership and business expertise in support of the nation's joint industry-government export expansion effort. The former chairman and CEO of leading international civil, environmental, and water infrastructure engineering firm Greeley & Hansen. He's also a longtime board member and the former chairman of the board of Chicago United. He's the immediate past chair of the Chicago Police Foundation Board and the current chair of the Chicago State Foundation Board. Please join me and civic leader, board member, and philanthropist John Robak in the arena right now. John Robak, how are you, my friend?
I'm great.
It is so glad to finally get you in this chair. I have tried to get you in interview seats for years now.
You have.
Seriously, we finally made it happen. So let's rip the Band-Aid. No, I'm sorry. Let's begin at the beginning.
Very good, very good.
Where were you born?
I was born in Chicago. I'm a Chicago native, born and raised.
Is your family originally from Chicago?
They are. My parents are both from Chicago. My dad grew up on kind of in a little village and went to Farragut High School. And my mom grew up in kind of the southwest side in Brighton Park, and she went to Kelly High School. So we're very, very Chicago based.
And where'd you go to school?
Well, interesting for me, my parents moved a little bit further west outside of the city in the village of Berkeley when I was little. And I spent about the first 10 to 11 years attending a parochial Catholic school. And then at that point, my parents moved again out to Downers Grove. And I attended the public school system, the junior high, and then also Downers Grove South High School.
Okay. And college?
For college, I went to DePaul University.
You are very Chicago.
I'm very Chicago. Yeah. And then to even make it more Chicago, I went to Loyola University for my MBA.
Wow. Were you a good student?
No, I wasn't necessarily a good student in elementary school or high school. I have to say, I was more interested in the social aspects of school. Okay. But that changed when I got to college. I think my maturity caught up with me, and I became very focused. And so through my college years and graduate school years, I was a good student.
Okay. Was it hard, and I'm talking about college and graduate studies, was once you decided the maturity came, did it come naturally, or were there always certain skills and tricks that you used to help keep you on the path that you had put yourself on?
No, I think it came very naturally for me. I think when I got to college, I really began to think more about the future and what opportunities might lie ahead. And I had a really unique curiosity in the courses that I decided to take. And so it came relatively easy. I have to tell you, though, it was surprising at times for my family to see report cards and grades. What happened here? But no, I think for the most part, once I entered into kind of that chapter of academic study, I was very laser focused.
Okay. And last year, your high school, and for the record, it hasn't happened to me yet, and I feel fairly distinguished. But let's focus on you. Your high school recognized you as a distinguished alumnus.
They did.
Alumnus.
Yeah.
How did that feel? Did you go and accept? What was the experience?
I did go and accept, actually. It was a little bit of a full circle moment, kind of surreal in some ways. They induct a number of people every other year. And when I just think back to those high school experiences and the kind of student I was and the kind of time that I had, which was a great time in my life, socializing and making lots of friends and participating in different activities and so forth. But to be there, to be recognized for my contributions to business and my contributions to community service was, I have to say, it was a little emotional that evening, being back in the school, which is very different. It's grown and changed and evolved. It wasn't exactly the same, although I do have to say I did find my locker, and the combination was still the same.
Stop. Are you serious?
I'm dead serious, which was kind of fun. But it was a really touching moment, and it really makes you, it really made me proud to be part of the school, and also I would have never have thought when I was there that 30-something years later I would be getting recognized as a distinguished alumnus, which was very, very touching, and I'm very proud of that.
I bet you are. What was your first paid job?
Well, in my household, we were really encouraged early to get out there and work. My parents really wanted to instill in us a level of responsibility. If you wanted something that was, what they would consider maybe a luxury item or something that was unique or special, they wanted you to earn it or contribute toward earning that. So my first job, I was a very good swimmer and diver, and my first job was actually as a lifeguard. So I had the privilege of spending some summers, very young, around the pool. And that was kind of the introduction to kind of the working world, and been working, ever since.
Mentorship, and you and I've gotten to know you over the years. You have been on so many boards, but you have been such a great mentor, I would say, even to me. And we're close in age. We're each, early, late 30s.
20s.
Okay, don't push it. See, okay, we're
in our mind.
Oh my gosh. But I've watched it. You have been a great mentor to myself and others. Talk to me about when mentors started showing up in your life, and what kind of impacts, as specific as you can, that those relationships had on you and who you are today.
My mentors really, over the years, came out of the professional world. Okay. So I think it was individuals that saw something in me, that my first, mentor, someone that hired me for my first professional job. And this individual really spent time helping me hone my craft, my skills. The first 8 to 10 years, I always tell people, are the most important years, because it allows you to become the expert in your academic field of study or whatever it is that you're choosing to do. And so that person really mentored me quite a bit to become very competent in terms of business skills and decision making and the tactics of doing the work. After that, in some ways, I feel like we sometimes outgrow our mentors a little bit, and we move on to someone else that maybe brings something else to us. My second mentor was a person that was completely different, that actually didn't have a business background at all, was actually an architect. And this individual really taught me a whole different set of skills, was a mentor around things like executive presence, around understanding and navigating unwritten rules within an organization. It was about helping me build confidence, because I had the strong skill set in terms of my technical capabilities. The soft skills absolutely came into play. And then there was one other person in my life that kind of helped round that out, and I was probably in my late 20s, early 30s when this person entered my life and really elevated my capabilities on more of a global platform, working internationally, working across cultures, working with individuals in the C-suite, if you will. And all of those individuals played a significant part in my life back then, and are still important in my life today, even though our relationships have changed over time.
Okay. Did you choose, as much as you can remember, did you choose them or did they choose you?
I think it's a combination of it. I think I don't like the term mentorship per se in the sense of like, Darius mentor John today. Like that would be an artificial relationship to me. I mean, unless I had a connection or a relationship in some way with you, or I knew you, we had some shared values, then I think that works. But otherwise, I think people float in and out of your life that are there for a reason. And these individuals, I think, saw something in me, and I saw something in them. And I think that's what made the relationship work so nicely.
I love that. Let me ask you a related question. What is your relationship to failure?
I feel like I don't have a relationship to failure, in all honesty. That doesn't mean I haven't had setbacks or that I haven't had challenges or I haven't had disappointments. I think we've all had that.
Sure.
But I guess I don't really look at failure as a bad thing. I think it's the sum of who we are. My feelings are that I am who I am because of the experiences that I had, and some worked out really well, some didn't. But that's really how I think about failure. It's a learning moment. It's an opportunity to pivot. It's an opportunity to reflect. It's an opportunity to think about how I might do things differently.
So you don't fear it?
I feel my relationship with failure is pretty positive in the sense that when things didn't go well or didn't go right, I quickly tried to assess what could I do differently, how could I do it differently, and then move forward from there.
It's interesting, and I really appreciate that answer. I have found failure to become my friend, but there was a point where the fear of it was debilitating. And to hear you, and I think for our viewers watching as well, young or young at heart, no matter where you are in your career, to really rethink or to evolve our thinking about our relationship with failure is so powerful. Because without it, that's where the deep learning happens. And that you look at it, almost the through line I've seen from the moment you switch from high school social butterfly to strategy, you sort of see it as a necessary part of your process.
That's right.
Okay.
That's right. And I think also, as it relates to, failure, for right or wrong, whether it was a good thing or a bad thing for me, I just knew I was confident enough in myself that if things didn't go the way I thought they were going to go, I would be resilient enough to land on my feet. Now maybe I shouldn't have had that heavy dose of confidence at certain times of my life, but I just felt like I'll figure it out. I will figure out where I go from here. And so you're right, failure in a lot of ways, I was never afraid of failure, but I knew that if something didn't go well, I'll figure out a path to get me on the right path again.
And that's always been the through line?
Always been through my life, always. Don't ask me where it comes from. I don't know, but maybe I shouldn't have had that, but it served me well.
And that is ultimately, at the end of the day, choices and consequences. Does it serve you well? Does it still serve you well?
Right.
So I love that. What is your not manifesto, what is your leadership sort of mantra? How do you, if I were to say to you, tell the class your leadership mantra, what is it?
It's more than just a leadership mantra. It is a leadership mantra, but I also try to apply it into my life on a day-to-day basis. And the mantra is pretty simple. It's right is always right.
Uh-huh.
And when I am confronted with a situation, whether it's in business or in my personal life or in some civic work that I'm doing, I always try to take a pause and a step back and say, what's the right thing to do here? And right, by the way, is not always the most popular thing to do
Agreed.
either.
Which is good that your relationship to fear is what it is, because
Right.
you're not fearing repercussions of making the right choice.
That's right. So sometimes we're confined or constrained by policies or maybe some type of protocol or something. You have to also reassess that and say, is this the right thing to do in this particular situation? And so many people that have worked for me, worked with me, they've heard that expression many times. And oftentimes when people come to me asking me for advice, I'll bring that out and say, what's the right thing to do? What is the right thing we should be doing here? And that's how I try to assess. I don't always get it right, but I certainly try to look at things through that lens and let that guide me in terms of the decisions that I make.
I like that. Let's start going through you and I've had this conversation, to look from a distance, your portfolio of volunteerism, leadership. I worked with you most closely at Chicago State Foundation,
right.
where you are now the chair of the board
Yes.
for a university that most people will say is Chicago's HBCU.
Sure.
It is a predominantly black university, serving 80+% under-resourced, under-supported, and you are the chair of the board of that organization. In 2017, you were awarded the Richard J. Daley Police Medal of Honor. And that's bestowed on civilians by the police department, acknowledging accomplishments of an individual citizen whose efforts have served or supported the Chicago Police Department. That same year, you were presented with an award from the local chapter of NOBLE, I'm very familiar with, the National Association of Black Law Enforcement Executives, for your conscientious efforts to support the needs of the law enforcement and community-based programs that builds, regains, and sustains. Earlier this month, and I was there, maybe a few weeks ago,
right.
You received the Person of Vision Award from Eversight. Will you tell me, what is Eversight?
Well, Eversight is an organization that focuses on really restoring sight. They do a lot of cornea transplant work for individuals that may lose their sight. And they honored me as their Person of Vision, which I'm very humbled by. Yeah.
And the room, I was in the room. The room was filled with folks who had a genuine affinity for you, for your work. So let's continue. Chicago United, I think it's where we first met.
Right.
World Business Chicago.
Right.
I'm sure I'm missing things in between, but help me to help our viewers to understand, but still help me. I've been asking you for a while. I think I'm understanding it. What underpins your not just cursory, but deep commitment where it's being honored and highlighted, where you are serving as the chair and heavy as the head that wears the crown? What underpins what appears to be a disparate portfolio of community and social and civic organizations? What's the thread?
Yeah, I could see, maybe from an outsider looking in, that these are very disjointed organizations. Yeah. But I don't necessarily see it that way, in the sense that I think the red thread that kind of runs through all of that is about community, and it's about uplifting others and helping others. And that, I think, as I mentioned at the beginning of our conversation, the first kind of formative years I spent in kind of parochial school, and I come from a household that really it was instilled upon me and my siblings to really think about how can we give back? What is it that we do as a family and as individuals to make the life for others better? And I can think of stories of my dad telling me to go out and mow the neighbor's lawn, an elderly neighbor's lawn, and make it easier for them, or get involved in something that the school is doing, or even as simple as making that weekly contribution to the church. That's the 15 cents had to go in the envelope and be given. Exactly. Yes. But I think the red thread that runs through it is there's a commitment to service. And I think in this city in particular, Chicago, if you're in a leadership position, if you are someone that is running a company or running an organization, at some point in time, somebody's going to become knocking on your door, asking you to help participate in making this city better. And I think I have a particular interest in organizations that do just that, and they're in a couple of key areas that speak to me. STEM, education in general, diversity, equity, inclusion, organizations that help individuals that may have some type of setback or need assistance to get through a hardship. Those are the kinds of things that generally speak to me.
You were also chair of the Chicago Police Community Policing Advisory Panel. Tell me about that role specifically, but in a city like Chicago, which is so different than the place I grew up. Our relationship with police in Detroit is different than Chicago. But your above the line support of an organization that is so often here maligned, right or wrong or somewhere in between. Tell me specifically though, this community policing advisory panel, what did you learn specifically from that, and then generally about the work of our men and women in law enforcement?
Well, the Community Policing Advisory Panel is something I take great pride in. It's a very different type of board experience than I've ever had. Okay. I'm used to working with I'm used to being in a corporate board setting, and even in the nonprofit arena, as you know, it's made up of a lot of leaders, and business leaders. The Community Policing Advisory Panel is very different. It's made up of community organizers. It's made up of scholars that understand policing, restorative justice, that a whole host of areas that I'm not an expert in. And what I've learned from that group is, particularly here in Chicago and some of the community organizers that I've had the opportunity to interact with, they know what's going on in their community, block by block, neighborhood by neighborhood. And as chairing kind of a group like that, which we're really focused on community policing, you have to look at things differently. You have to really dig deep to find empathy and understanding, and look at things through the lens of someone else that's has a different experience than the person sitting next to them, that's in a different part of the city, or has different life experiences. So that has been incredibly powerful for me. I believe strongly, as many people do, we do our most growing when we are in uncomfortable situations, when we're out of our comfort zone. And so that panel, which we have 100 plus initiatives that we're implementing all around community-based policing work, is really powerful work. It's actually embedded in the consent decree. So we're kind of evaluating. We're bringing the members of the CPD in, and we're listening as community members. The work that we are trying to enable to do is really take that DNA of community policing and make sure that it's embedded in everything that's related to policing. It's a big shift. It's a big shift. And the community has a lot of input around that. And leading that's tough.
Yeah, it's a big shift, but at this inflection point, it is an utterly necessary one. Okay. We've got one more segment, so the pain continues, or I'm sorry, the experience continues for one more second. We'll be right back, Chicago. Stay with us.
I'm Hugo Balta, host of the program 3 Questions With. Latinos have a very high labor participation rates, yet the financial well-being of many Latino families does not reflect many of these economic contributions. Enter the Latino Policy Forum.
It really is an intentional effort to bring together Black and brown community leaders to facilitate community change and improve our neighborhoods.
Join us on Wednesdays at 7:30 in the evening via Channel 19, streaming on cantv.org and the Can TV Plus app.
John Robak.
Yes.
We are at our final segment of what has been too short of a conversation. But alas, 3 for the road is this segment. Listen, I don't know why these 3 questions catch up a lot of wonderful people. So just take care, no pressure. Okay. Are you ready to begin?
Let's do it.
All right, first question. If you could have dinner with any person, living or deceased, who would you choose and why?
That's a great question. I think at this point in time in my life, this answer might surprise you a little bit. I've been privileged and lucky to meet lots of different leaders and lots of different successful people throughout my career and the work that I've done. I'm really interested, if I could, I didn't know my great-grandfather, and he immigrated here from Eastern Europe in the late 1800s. I think it would be very fascinating today to sit down with him and hear about how it was leaving his homeland, coming to the United States, really with nothing. And I would be really intrigued to know how he wound up in Chicago, which was really the whole trajectory of what this conversation today. So that is something that I've thought about from time to time, and that's high on my list. Giving given everything that we're seeing going
Absolutely.
on here in Chicago and across
beyond,
the U.S.
yeah.
That's on my list today.
Good first answer, sir. Ready for question 2?
I think so.
I think I know the answer already, but I'm going to ask it anyway. Do you have any regrets?
I think we all have, regrets of some sort in our life, but for the most part, no. I don't live my life with regret. I think I'm always moving forward. I try to learn from things, again, as I said, things that don't work out, or maybe something that is a disappointment. But no regrets. I believe in a higher power. I believe we are to be where we're meant to be. And I don't think you can live in the past. I think you've got to continue to move forward.
Love that. Final question. Well, not really final question, but final for the 3 for the road.
Okay.
One piece of advice present-day John Robak would have given his 21-year-old self.
That's like a couple years ago.
Sure. Where's the camera? Sure. Okay, go ahead.
My 21-year-old self. I think I would give this, and I would give this to other 21-year-olds as well. I think the advice would be to make sure, as you're building your career and you're going through your life, that you take moments to make sure you're pausing and you're celebrating those successes. And I see this a lot, and I'm guilty of it myself. You accomplish something, and you're already looking at the next thing, and how am I going to climb that ladder? How am I going to get to the next hurdle or the next accomplishment that I want? It's important, I think, for people to recognize when they've achieved something, to take a moment, celebrate that, and be present and be mindful in that moment.
Oh, okay. Journey, not the destination.
Right.
Okay, one more question. You were CEO and chairman of your corporate board at Greeley & Hanson.
That's right.
In 2022, you successfully brokered the acquisition of the firm. Talk about that process. I can only imagine. I've never been a part of a merger and acquisition that large, but talk about the process, and also because you're still, as we just explained to our viewers, relatively young.
Sure.
What is the next chapter?
Well, I would have to say in my entire professional career, 2022 was probably the most challenging, going through a process like that. But I think it was important for the company to move to the next level. There's obviously a lot of stakeholders involved. You want to make the best decision for everybody. You're looking for the win-win situation that can benefit the majority of the people. And I think I was able to do that successfully, and I was able to close that. And it's given me a great opportunity. I'm very blessed. I have a great opportunity now to step back and say, what does that next chapter look like? And that next chapter, I think, is going to be focusing on the things that really now give me the greatest passion. And you mentioned a lot of the things that I'm doing, but it really is about how can I use my my resources, my time, my treasure in ways that continue to make an impact here in Chicago, and even broader than that, lifting people up, helping organizations, lending my voice to organizations that are doing great work that people need to hear about, much in the way that you're doing.
Yeah, you and I have had conversations about this. There is no getting away from me and CAN TV. We are, you are one of the sponsors of our 40th anniversary gala, and yours was one of the first yeses. It was easy. Looking forward to the evolution of our partnership, our relationship, personally, professionally with CAN TV. I can't thank you enough. I cannot. John, for things big and small, for counsel, for walking the talk, and for being in rooms. I have watched you run a board meeting, and it is a beautiful sight to behold. So with that said, thank you very much.
Thank you.
And thank you, Chicago and beyond, for tuning in tonight. Let me leave you with a final thought for the road, courtesy of businessman and writer Max Dupree. The first responsibility of a leader is to define reality. The last is to say thank you. In between, the leader is a servant. Until next time, take good care of you and each other. Good night.